So what we want to do is talk a little bit about two things to round out the day, and some of them are boxes, right? But what we're doing in converged infrastructure, including hyperconverged, what we're doing in storage. These are, not the highest business level connectivity conversations, but we are still seeing, of course, massive demand for growing data for storage, and the converged demand continues to be robust because customers need to simplify. They need to get applications out faster. They are finding value in converged infrastructure. I was going to start just reminding ourselves, we've kind of covered intelligent ops. That was the morning. We've covered data protection to a degree. We're going right to left for reasons I'll never understand in this room. But we're going to talk about the agile data infrastructure. These are the systems that run that infrastructure. If you think of our portfolio, it really starts with we have these systems. We've talked about that in the morning, right? How we have to understand the requirements and what we're building. We're going to focus in this conversation about these converged package offerings, right? True hyperconverged, rack scale offerings, or the converged systems. We really want to provide that foundation for all the software capabilities a customer is going to want to do. You heard over lunch, we can put an entire kind of cloud on site and have that as a service, so a customer doesn't need to touch the details. For the customer who wants to pick and choose and build that own private cloud, hopefully more successful than some, this is the infrastructure we think we can help them accelerate with. We talked about a lot of the management, so we're not going to go deep, but we will talk about what we're doing specific to converged infrastructure management, because we think that's one of the differentiators we have in this space. And what Ravi will also talk about, and we'll see what we do, because we are challenging, I started this timer low, what use cases are really jumping out as unique and interesting that we're deploying this on? How do we potentially layer on analytics? So the things you heard about Pentaho being able to bring data together, or run core mission critical applications and spin off copies and use that. How are we building that data pipeline using different converged systems? How are we addressing robo or VDI? Maybe in novel ways using our technology. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about. Yeah.
So are you going to define what you mean between converged, hyperconverged, and do you have a composable component there?
So ask that question again in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Let's see. So what I'm going to do in a very basic level is my assumption is not everybody is dramatically familiar with our converged infrastructure family. So I was going to go literally a slide on each in 5 minutes to make sure we're all there. Composable, I suppose, depends on what you mean, right? I think that term has been somewhat, are we doing rack scale memory separate from processing composable at this point? Not really. But we can configure systems in different ways in converged. How many nodes do you want, et cetera. So not take discrete components that are separate and fundamentally configure on the fly.
You can have configurations such as nodes with external storage as well as nodes with internal storage, all part of the rack, and enable the whole management and automation around it. So you have a more flexible configuration from that point of view.
Okay.
So this is fundamentally our family. We talk about everything we do in convergence being the biggest umbrella as the unified compute platform family. And I think we're going to see that really Advisor and what we're doing to provide a single management layer that connects across all of them as a unique differentiator, we believe, going forward. So I'm literally just going to go quickly through these. So in a traditional converged infrastructure, we talk about that as Unified Compute Platform CI, or UCP CI. This is what you'd expect, right? You're using VSP storage, traditional converged, with the separate networking and compute. The benefit here primarily is the flexibility. Customers who say, I might need lots of compute, not that much storage, or lots of storage, not that much compute, they get flexibility to add. You can either do scale-up servers with dense compute, or scale out lots of smaller servers and pull that into a configuration. We talk about data optimized, meaning you get to use all the data services resident in our storage virtualization operating system and VSPs. You can choose across what type of compute you want, small racks or bigger systems. You can choose the different size storage, et cetera. Not shocking. You put up some workloads. You can theoretically run whatever you want here, right? But we do a lot of solutions work in some of the areas represented on top. And common theme you're going to see on the bottom is UCP Advisor is the primary management interface for the platform. Pretty traditional converged infrastructure. Our hyperconverged would be UCP, or Unified Compute Platform, HC. I don't have a lot of logos here because it's built on VMware. If it runs in VMware, in theory, you can run it on UCP HC. It is a scale-out, VMware-based hyperconverged system, right? So
is that your storage software layer or vSAN?
This is vSAN.
Okay.
This is a VMware solution.
You sure it's called vSAN again now? Because I stopped calling it vSAN for a while.
I think
Sorry, I'm
it's vSAN.
So hyperconverged is essentially just your converged solution with VMware on top of it.
No, so this is 2U package, internal disk. You're not using VSP necessarily. So traditional converged would be separate storage. This is all-inclusive node like any other hyperconverged.
Okay.
So our value add here, aside from the solutions we build, is the management interface to do some of the hardware lifecycle, plug into vCenter, et cetera, and you'll see a little bit of that.
Are you selling ready nodes or are you selling complete appliance free?
These aren't exactly ready nodes, are they, Ravi?
These are ready nodes.
Okay, all right. I thought there was a twist on that, but there you go. Yes, the answer is yes. That would have been easier. All right, we can go through that, but I think most people get the ready node concepts, and that's our offering in that space. And then we have the rack scale, we call it platform, which is fundamentally the UCP-HC systems together with the rack with kind of a full system management plugin as well. And again, we can also do what we consider rack scale packaging for bare metal. So let's say we're building out an analytics environment where you want to put up a Mongo cluster or a Hadoop cluster. You don't necessarily need the VM. You can either build sort of what we call like hybrid cloud ready, where we do support vCloud ready and can do to Amazon and move VMs. We've got that sort of version with the hardware component and stack. Or we can do bare metal, and you could bring in a Hadoop or other platform if you want to run analytics. So that's the RS platform, all part of our UCP family. Make sense?
And the RS platform is software-defined storage. It's not VSP or anything like that?
Correct. Correct. Now, there are things we're doing to make sure that we can connect these environments together over time. You'll hear more about that as we go through the year, because we want to be able to expand out the storage capability in the environment. But yeah, this is all-inclusive in the nodes.
I'm sorry, I know that but it's software-defined storage. So what is the storage in this? It's not VSP. It's
Correct.
software-defined storage. What's the software?
Storage disks.
What's that?
Internal storage disks.
Yeah, it's internal disk. So it depends.
But what's the software running that internal storage?
So it depends. It may be nothing, so that's the bare metal. You might want to run the file system that comes with the Hadoop cluster you want to run if you're building an analytics solution, but you want a one-line order of the packaging of all the rack and componentry and processing, et cetera. If you're buying it for private cloud or hybrid cloud, it would come preloaded with VMware, with the ready node capability and the vCloud, all that capability. So you can get it that way if you want it. As a full software defined, you can get the VMware stack preloaded. If you want it just for, hey, I got to build a big cluster for something and I don't want VMware for whatever reason, you can get a bare metal kind of version of it. But you get all the hardware stacking and some of the management.
This never includes VSP.
Not this offer. If you want a VSP and you're going to build out separate compute networking, you go down this path. And that way you can say, I need more servers or less servers. I need a big VSP, a little VSP. You can get more configurable.
So Microsoft or Azure Stack or Hyper-V, that's not available under rack scale?
On the rack scale,
Not at this time, but we do enable bare metal as part of the rack scale. So if the customer choose to deploy it, they can.
Okay.
Well, you can't.
you won't get it preloaded from us.
So you've got a Hortonworks logo.
You can't get a Azure
It's available
stack, but you can
preloaded,
get-
or
Do we preload Hortonworks, or is that
No,
just solution?
We don't. We only preload the VMware software. And,
Okay, so
We've got reference architectures and solution build-outs. So for instance, you can get the whole reference architecture on. Let's say you wanted to.
for all of those logos.
Yes, correct.
we do have
Yes.
services basically enable
install.
and install and deploy those software as well.
Okay.
So it's more reference architecture and how to build it out. So what we're seeing is a lot of interest in sort of offloading from a central EDW, pulling that into somewhere to run analytics. And we've built out kind of what that would look like and how to size it and everything. And we're going to start, I'll start bringing Ravi in more here. I mean, fundamentally, look, in some of these solutions, it's a ready node, right? I mean, we've got 1U servers, 2U servers, we've got different capabilities. It's the management where we begin to add some of that differentiation and how we can leverage our data protection software and all these other things we've been talking about. But really, one of the things we're focused on is we want to be a broad solution provider. We want to be able to do kind of mission critical traditional converged, quick and easy, hyper converged, et cetera. But if we can do that, because we have customers who need a little bit of all of those, with one way to manage and plug into other management tools, that's what UCP Advisor does for us. So it helps with the infrastructure management, the life cycle of the hardware, how to take care of things like patch management, et cetera, across all these different use cases. And what we were going to talk through is some of the usability of what that looks like, how it works, and how it's applicable to some of these use cases. Ravi, does that make sense? You want to take it from there?
Thanks, Bob. So continue the discussions. We'll get into the advice in more detail in a few slides. Can you start the timer, please?
Yeah.
In terms of the solutions and workloads, when we architect our UCP solutions, we basically look at what's the typical application landscape is, what's the workload that the customers have, and try and address what are the gaps that we want to go after. So we have a set of certified solutions, reference architectures that's across the spectrum of application workloads, right? From general purpose to mission critical applications and anywhere in between. And we want to make sure that we come up with a set of solutions that customers can rely on. These kind of solutions are enabled on top of the UCP CI, HC, as well as the RS. And what we did was to basically make sure that, hey, we have the infrastructure services that is catering to various private cloud initiatives. Whether we want to engage with the VMware, then we basically make sure that we have the right set of integrations. We'll talk about that briefly. Then we also have the Red Hat integrations as well, whether it's in terms of OpenStack or whether it's in terms of the enterprise Kubernetes. We want to make sure that we have those right set of reference architecture on top of the UCP solutions. Then we also are one of the few partners within the VMware where we basically enable and certify the VMware Cloud Foundation to run on the UCP RS. So we will be able to basically enable various hybrid cloud scenarios. We have customers who are looking at basically running HCP on the VM on UCP RS and see whether we can have applications that can run on the UCP RS as well as on an AWS, assuming that the application is eventually it will be consistent from a data point of view.
So Ravi, there's no, I'm not sure what the term is, but enterprise cloud platform for containers solution that you guys have packaged at this level? I know they've got the service, but you guys don't actually have an appliance for that or anything like that?
We have the appliances. They internally use the UCP as well as part of the HEC. Then from an applications point of view, what you see here is essentially the data pipeline, right? How do you acquire data? How do you basically do some...
But you're not supplying the software solution that they have, that they're offering as a service. You're not supplying it as an appliance or anything like that.
We do provide some amount of framework, software framework, so that they can enable it. For example, as part of the hardware lifecycle management, the HEC container team uses the UCP Advisor.
But not the visualization of the service catalog or the as-a-service nature of it. This is more, you're going to be in there and configure and do the things, not get it as a service.
And it's more internal as well, because as a management service, managed services, they don't need to be aware of the infrastructure tools.
Right.
So what you see on the top of the line is basically the pipeline, data pipeline, acquiring the data, processing the data as part of Pento, then storing the data, then data tiering based on SAP or Oracle or Pento workloads. We also have the reference architecture for Hadoop and Mapper as well, where customers are basically leveraging these solutions. And soon we'll be introducing solutions that requires more advanced analytics that's going to enable AI/ML concepts, leveraging the Pento and Weka, our tool sets as part of the advanced analytics. What we are going to enable as part of it is to have the GPU, the hardware accelerator, as part of our infrastructure, so that the people can leverage the hardware accelerator. Yes?
I'm not sure I understand the slide. The middle column is for hyperconverged. That's vSAN-based hyperconverged.
No, it's not correlated. It's just to say that, hey, these are the solutions that are enabled on top of the infrastructure platform.
Oh, fine. Good.
That is confusing.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep,
I
fair.
thought you were suggesting that SAP HANA runs on hyperconverged. Fine.
You know, there are people who want to do that.
I guess so.
There are not many. There are vendors who would
Keith,
very much
we're talking
like that
about
to be
your
a thing.
application.
Are we?
Yep. We're talking about HANA on HCI.
What's your biggest vSAN install? Biggest cluster?
I know of 100 nodes. Well, I don't think that's a single cluster, though. I think it's multiple clusters. We don't tend to see many clusters over 16 nodes. There are some. But I know there are customers that have over 100 nodes
150 nodes
deployed for us. I'd have to think through how many clusters that is.
Now that they do cross-cluster vMotion, the advantages of a big cluster start to really fade.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You can move workloads as needed. Yeah.
So coming to the UCP Advisor, our unique capability is to provide for the end user. Our main key user is the VM administrator. So we provide all of our capabilities, most of our the management interface and automations through the vCenter itself. It's a vCenter plugin. It's pretty unique in the industry. We don't have our own standalone user interface. We basically plug it in within the vCenter ecosystem. And we have a deep integrations with the VMware ecosystem that includes the operations manager, the log insights, and other tools, the orchestrator and such. So I'll quickly show you a demo if we have time about enabling these capabilities. It provides visibility from not just one UCP, but it's more of a federated management tool that we created within the vCenter. They don't need to learn a new tool. The paradigms that the user experience exposes is all very, very similar to what the customers are used to from a vCenter point of view. We follow the same user interface paradigm as we implemented this. So from that point of view, it doesn't matter whether you have UCP CI or UCP RS or UCP HC. You basically log on to one tool to federately manage all of those resources.
So if I'm running the HCI solution, and I say, create me a VM and connect it to VLAN 47. You go talk to the switches and make sure that VLAN 47 is available to all the hosts.
Yeah, you can configure those things from the vCenter point of view, yeah. And the other...
and you'll update the firmware on my network switches?
Yes, that are managed as part of the UCP.
Granted.
Yes, the lifecycle management covers the network and compute firmware updates, and we basically provide those experience seamlessly for the customer. Then we also enable, someone was asking about the HCI appliances, I think it's Jeff. So we do are working currently on the toolkit for day 0 automation and day 1. So you'll be able to seamlessly install or deploy the ESXi, configure the networks, and get ready to go within a few hours. That's one of the key asks from our customers, and we are very aggressively working on that. In terms of other capabilities, we extend by having policy-based bare metal provisioning. This is pretty unique as well. Imagine that you have a VM administrators. We have customers before this set of tools where they had to wait for 6 months, customer up in Northwest, who had to wait for 6 months to get a bare metal systems running. And what this tool provides you is the capability to create those kind of bare metal systems within few hours, all based on policies. Everything that we talk about here is exposed through REST API. Not only that, but we also provide a playground within the user interface as part of the Swagger. So if a customer wants to try out something as part of infrastructure as a code and try an REST API, they can log on to the Swagger API documents, provide the right set of parameters, and triggers the API then and there. They have such a power with that. In addition, we also integrate with HID that Albert was talking in the morning, where you can say that, hey, if you want to extend the capabilities of the advisor out of the box, and say that, for example, you want to go and deploy an application, or you want to power cycle mini servers as part of your batch, we provide the necessary primitive APIs, and if the customer wants to integrate as part of the ITSM and CMDB as part of their process, they'll be able to go and extend that. We are also working on extending the HIDs with some set of workflows so that it can ease various integrations. Then in terms of GAT, this is one of the things that we were talking in the morning. Customers are looking at, especially the EMEA customers, where they want to enable global active device and metro clusters. So we want to make sure that, hey, when you're going to deploy VMSC, the VMware metro cluster, then you want to make sure that you have the visibility into the underlying infrastructure around replications. So what better the tool than to provide, hey, not only can we create the metro clusters on top of cities across different sites, but provide the underlying infrastructure visibility as well. And soon we'll start working on some automation aspects of the GAD as well. Extending that is the integrations to the operational insights. We know that, hey, customers are siloed, but we also want to empower the VM administrators, not only providing these capabilities, but hey, can you integrate with the operations manager and say that, hey, this is the context for what you need to basically monitor and manage. So we provide deep integrations with the operations manager and also, of course, the HIA that Manu was talking about. Let me quickly jump onto the demo. So this is the interface where I was kind of talking where we have provide a launch where you can trigger and launch various user interface around the advisor. And we also provide context in other areas within vCenter so that you can have an understanding of what's the underlying physical infrastructure. This is the federated management view where you can register multiple UCPs across multiple sites and manage them centrally, including the firmware updates, deploying the bare metal. You'll be able to do it from a central location with all enabled through REST APIs. This is what set of devices that we can manage using the advisor. Not only the Skylake-based processors, but we also can manage the older generations of UCP. So from a user experience point of view, what we want to do is to say that, hey, you don't need to go learn a new set of tools. We continue to basically manage the older generations as well as the current generation of the tools. Other interesting thing that we enable as part of this logical UCP is that, hey, for our VM administrators, we know that the customers always struggle and wait for a storage to be provisioned. It's going to take some time. We expose managing some set of storage resources directly as part of a logical UCP so that, hey, if you want to empower your VM administrators by creating various storage LANs and mapping it and binding it, you can go do that as well within the UCP advisor. So from one console, one user interface, you can manage the converged infrastructure, the hyper-converged infrastructure, and storage as well. So that's pretty powerful and very unique in the industry. Which means that from a private cloud point of view, we are kind of solving that last mile problem of to say that, hey, not only can you basically enable an end-to-end automation services, but go up to the storage as well and create those storages. This is just inventory of various FC and IP switches. Let me jump out of the next demo in the interest of time.
So, I mean, did you say UCP Advisor was able to manage the converged infrastructure VSPs and things of that nature? I mean,
from a storage point of view, not the lifecycle of the storage, but where whatever storage is allocated, the raw storage allocated to the VM administrators, they can go and create LANs and bind them, kind of thing. Yeah. With the blessings of the SSN administrator and storage administrators. Yeah. This is just an example, the demo of actual provisioning that's happening. We support many variants of the OS. And I'm going to quickly jump in the interest of time. This is the actual provisioning that's happening, where it deploys the ESXi. Not only is just the OS, but you can also deploy the ESXi on top of a bare metal nodes. As you can see from the screens, like what we have done is, as you make progress, we integrated with the vCenter task manager as well. So we are not introducing a new set of tools or interfaces. We integrate directly with various components of the vCenter as well. So there's nothing new to learn except for enabling those capabilities. Let me jump back to the slides. In terms of integrations, we provide a rich set of integrations across the board, from Oracle to VMware to SAP. So for example, as part of a SAP basis administrators, if you want to manage your infrastructure, you can basically go do that. Or if you are part of Oracle administrators, whether you are integrating as part of a ASM or directly consuming the UCP resources, you can log on to the Oracle Enterprise Manager and manage those infrastructures directly. If you're looking at the enterprise architectures, looking at the next generation of application architectures that's going to require containers or Kubernetes, then we do, or OpenStack, we do provide the right set of adapters. So one of the adapter is the container to provide the persistent storage. So you'll be able to go enable that as well. We know that Kubernetes is come up with the new initiatives around container storage initiatives, so we'll be working on enabling that as well on top of our VSP and UCP. This is an example of the solutions as part of the virtual desktop. One of the things that we see our customers use is to basically deploy the UCP HC, which is bundled with our HDI solutions. It's the Hitachi data ingester. What it provides you is a proxy to the backend HCP. So when you deploy these systems on a remote office, and when you write it to the HDI, it basically copies, sends the data back to the HCP and keeps a link to the active files. So kind of like optimize your storage and operation. So we have a customer who have customers who have deployed the HC with the HDI solution. I'll talk about this use case. It's pretty interesting. Increasingly, we are seeing customers deploying UCP HC, the hyperconverged solutions, as part of IT Edge. This is where they want to have a small form factor. And this is a customer where they deploy the HC on the two ends of the ship and clustered it. And basically, when the ship goes to the port, they do the data transfer and analyze it, but it kind of provides more efficient operations. Yeah.
What do you see? What's the difference between the Edge and Robo?
So Edge, the Robo is more looking at the bank or the distributed manufacturing with a powerful network. On IT Edge has where the network is more challenging. It's more interlinked. It's very likely both of them is going to get merged, but that's how we.
So what would you consider a manufacturing floor? I think the problem is Edge is so broad, right?
Well, no, I think the real problem is you're picking up. Everybody uses cruise ships and oil rigs, and the problem is you get these extreme examples rather than focusing on the reason why we talk about the Edge. And I think that would be more interesting here, is to talk about why this is being used in this way rather than the example itself.
Well, that's an actual customer. That's the reason we picked up that one.
Okay. But I mean, kind of to the point to the earlier question, Robo versus a cruise ship. Okay, so it's a network issue.
It's a network issue. Also, the form factor plays in.
But how does that change what you decide to deploy? I mean, okay, so I've got a Robo, I've got a remote office somewhere, and I've got a cruise ship. How does the fact that one has a good network connection, the other one doesn't? They both ended up deploying vSAN on Hitachi hardware.
For the Robo use case, the customer had a opportunity to install the UCP RS as well, but they went for the lower form factor, but they had this real estate in their bank branches to deploy UCP RS. But in the ship, they had a very high real estate constraint. And they basically said that, hey, look,
but the network had nothing to do with it.
I'm coming there. They had a challenge around real estate, and they also said that, hey, we can't transfer data to the core frequently. So they basically said that, hey, we want to make sure that the form factor was a factor, and of course the network where they can't transfer the data. So they were looking for more internal storage, and the HC was the case here.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Okay.
Yeah, I would think a great example would be retail too. I mean, so many stores have IT infrastructure at.
That's the Robo use case.
Okay, so you'd consider that Robo.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we know that it's kind of merging definitions. That's pretty much was the last slide that we had. The last one. This is more of the mission critical applications where we have a customer from healthcare basically deploying the SAP HANA solution on UCP CI, but the same solution can also enable Oracle. But the idea here is it's like the customer had the primary health records stored in the UCP CI and then started using the other systems for data tiering. Such as the one coming from various machines or data sensors. They were basically using the UCP RS, for process, and storing the scan data with metadata that John was talking about, the capabilities in HCP as part of the object storage. They were able to basically load it in HCP. Then there's also a customer who basically started tiering the HANA data to Hadoop for some advanced analytics, all tied in through Pento. So that was pretty much the last.
Yeah, I mean, that's the use cases we're seeing and why we're trying to do that single management, because we are seeing an increase of customers who want to run the primary data store, primary application, as well as spin-off analytics workloads. So trying to package up the infrastructure for those to make it easier is fundamentally what we're doing here.
This is pretty much the same kind of story that we would get from a lot of HCI companies.
Yep.
What we're trying to do is provide the management experience of a HCIS, but tie that into the traditional Converged. So you don't have to have like a Converged system manager and then jump off into a different world for hyper-converged systems management.
Okay, I got it.
So that's that layer that tries to connect them all. Because data, it may be easy to say, but those are the conversations about data pipeline and what do I do for analytics and what should I use to tier data out of SAP or Oracle EDW, and what should I put it in? Is it MapR? Is it Hadoop? What am I going to use? But if we can say not only, hey, here's the ones we've tested, here's an infrastructure block, RS or what have you, that can run that cluster for you. By the way, the management utility doesn't change. We can simplify that a bit for the customer.